Hey all, welcome to Geek Freaks. I am Frank, and I'm with Anthony.
What up?
Squeaks.
Squeaks.
Today we're going to be covering a lot of the news. We also have some new esports to talk about. I actually want to address that. We have a lot of fans out there that are in it for the esports, and we usually cover some of the big topics, but we don't do enough. So going forward, we're going to cover the esports more and more, and then seeing how you guys react to it, we'll expand that as well. So expect more esports from us. Also, we know that right now is a lot of video game news. We've mentioned this in the past. That's because it's currently the only industry of the four that we cover that's active. Movies, TV shows, and comic books are all pretty dormant. So starting next week, we're going to pepper in some more top fives that are movie and TV related to kind of mix it up a little bit, because currently this feels like just video game news for the most part. So we'll bring all that in. And then we also have a Blizzard Corner coming next week. I was going to do the Blizzard Corner this week, but there is so much stuff being released every day right now with beta access being released that it is best that we wait one more week so we can really gather as much as possible for you guys. But that being said, let's get into what you guys are watching. Anthony, what have you been watching lately?
Ooh, man. I've been on a Disney Plus kick lately, so I'm actually just going back watching an old bunch of Disney movies right now.
That's good. What about any series from Disney Plus?
You know what? I was going back to watch Clone Wars.
Oh, classic.
Starting that one up and going from there.
Have you watched Clone Wars before, or is this your first time?
This is the first time I'm actually starting it.
Okay, so let me give you this warning, and I gave this one to Squeaks too. The first season does not feel very good. It was actually made more for children, I think. And then the second season, they realized what their audience really was, and then they actually made the stories much more complex. So get past the first season, it gets way better.
Yeah, it seems like that, and then it seems kind of like it's all over the place, so I'm just trying to keep up with it.
It does stay kind of all over the place. There are arcs that'll like kind of continue throughout each season, but there are a lot of these like one-off episodes that are just adventures. So that is something to expect. Yeah. Squeaks, what have you been watching, man?
So we talked about it before. I just finished Veep, which I thought was a very good show.
Yep.
I think it may be a season too long, but that very good.
Okay.
And I actually started Clone Wars as well. I'm almost done with the first season.
Okay.
But yeah, I get it though because it does have the one-off episodes, which are kind of neat. It's for sure like a normal TV series that you would see on like Nickelodeon, because it was originally Nickelodeon, right?
I think it was. You could be right. It could be Nickelodeon. I always thought it was Disney, but maybe it could have been Nickelodeon.
I'm not used to it being Star Wars being like that, so it does throw me off a little bit too. But then you start realizing like, okay, this is like a cartoon series. But I'm kind of looking forward to the next season, like you're saying, more complex stories, more bigger stories.
Yeah, I think of it a lot like the Star Wars comic books. Is how you think of Clone Wars.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
they are the same way, where they have these long arcs, but they also have these one-offs where you're just getting a little look inside of the galaxy. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you're watching?
I just watched a bunch of. I was on the Disney kick also, watching a bunch of Pixar movies, Disney movies.
Nice.
Yeah, I just finished Brave. I'm on Cars right now.
Classic.
I just bounce around everywhere, just seeing things that I haven't seen in a while.
That's
Watching
cool.
things I
Don't
haven't seen
forget
in
the
a while.
Tiger King.
Oh yeah, the whole world's seen Tiger King.
Yeah. All right, so let's dig into some news. Unfortunately, San Diego Comic-Con has been canceled this year. This is the first time it's been canceled in 50 years. The event was originally planned for July 23rd and 26th, but is being pushed back to next year on the 22nd to the 25th of July. In their press release, they also announced that the Comic-Con Museum is being postponed because they were working on this museum over the past 50 years and stuff like that. They announced it last year. And then WonderCon, which is in Anaheim, that is also being moved, and that's being moved to March 26th and 28th of 2021. Over the next few days, if you guys had a hotel room through Comic-Con, they have like this partnership with On Peak. They're going to cancel your room for you, and you're going to get your money back. So what part of Comic-Con are you guys going to miss the most? Cheddar, let's start with you.
For me, the biggest part of Comic-Con or any kind of convention is I love the booths. I like walking around, seeing what people are selling, kind of new creative things,
Yeah.
and anything new that's out there for especially people just starting out that aren't very known to people that are. I like seeing different creativity, I guess, and something new. And just walking around different booths interacting with people is kind of the biggest thing that I like seeing.
That's a good point. Yeah, you get a lot of those like indie comics, indie games if it's a video game convention. And when you support them at their booth, you're giving them the direct money. It's not going to some like side manager or something like that. Like they're actually helping them out. So that's a good idea.
I think I'm gonna miss like everyone else, all the announcements. I hope that we get what E3 is wanting to do like a virtual convention, or just throw other stuff out from Marvel and DC and Image and Dark Horse. Hopefully, they have their own kind of day of releases that we can still enjoy.
When they do, we'll make sure to cover it here, guys. We'll make a big episode about that because we're excited for those, of course. But on a side note, we actually mentioned this a while back. E3's digital event is not going on, so they're going to just work on next year's. But they have confirmed that there is going to be an E3 next year. Some people were concerned that maybe there won't be an E3 anymore. There definitely will be, and Geek Freaks will be there.
Oh,
So that's all happening. Yeah. I'd have to agree with all of you guys. Well, because I mean, the announcements, of course, I want to know the next 7 years of MCU movies. So like that's what I'm there for. So yeah.
wow.
It's awesome. Okay, so how can people still support the comic book industry? It's going through the hardest time it's ever gone through.
Yeah.
Like for example, you guys can see if your local comic book shop has a way of giving you your comics at the door or curbside pickup, things like that. Or do you guys have any other ways you can celebrate and support the comic book industry right now?
Well, if there's some comic book shops that are open, maybe like buy some gift cards in the meantime until they reopen, hopefully. If not, then I don't know. How would you for their tanking?
Yeah, you could also, so that's the comic book shops. Industry wide, you could always do Comixology, stuff like that. It's not as good, but it does trickle down the money a little bit.
I got a comic book store down the street, and I drove past it today, and it's got a big old sign saying "Call the number." They're only doing curbside only, which is sad to see. And I'm not a big fan of like the ebooks.
Mm-hmm.
I like having a hard copy comic book, if anything. But I think if we can support them somehow, call them, say, "Hey, give me your best 5 comics you think you have right now," just to kind of keep them afloat because everybody's kind of going downhill right now. And I'm not a fan of ebooks, but if that's going to support the company and keep them above ground, I think that's another way to do it.
Literally just did that a couple weeks ago where I was like, just pick 5 books out. And I loved it because they weren't books I would have picked up. Spider-Woman. It's actually a really good comic book. I'm excited to read more from that. Stuff like that. And so that was a really good way to do it. And then I bought a Magic deck for the first time ever, or first time in a decade. And so we have cameras going out to the guys, and we're going to try to play Magic over the internets. So we'll see how that goes. It should be fun. All right, moving on to the next thing here. We have HBO is ordering new shows, and we got a new trailer for Perry Mason. So we're going to go over 2 of the new shows, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Perry Mason. Justice League Dark is getting its own series. It'll be on HBO Max, and it's being developed by J.J. Abrams' studio Bad Robot, which I can already hear Squeak sighing in the background. Justice League Dark is a superhero team that specializes in magic and the occult. They're kind of like Dark Side, regular Justice League, you know what I'm saying? They're usually led by Constantine, which is why I'm a big fan of theirs. This was based on the characters and will be the lead up to the development of the team. So when we first see them, they're all going to be separated, but then there's going to be a big bad that'll eventually bring them all together. This is animated, by the way. I know I haven't mentioned that. Most notable characters, of course, is John Constantine, Madame Xanadu, Deadman, Swamp Thing, and Zantana. Zantana, I think, was just helping the Justice League in their last main story, so that was pretty cool. What are you guys' thoughts on Justice League Dark becoming a series? Are you guys a fan of them? And who would you want to see join the team? Kind of all those things wrapped up.
I think you already know how I'm going to feel about this. So I have strong feelings towards J.J. Abrams right now, and it's going to take a lot for him to redeem that for me. So I'm not really looking forward to anything, especially with his producing Westworld, which I think that show is just going downhill.
It's total fire right now. Yeah. It's terrible.
With that, and obviously the Star Wars movies, I really have no interest when I hear his name. But who knows? Maybe he'll spark it back up like he did with Star Trek. So, who I would like to join? I don't know, but I sure would like to see some. No, we don't. We already lost our Batman, huh? Can we get a Keanu Reeves playing Constantine?
So every regular DC character basically has been like kind of like visiting characters. Batman is one of their most like visiting characters in Justice League Dark.
Can we get a Keanu Reeves to play Constantine again?
Oh, dude, no way. Matt Ryan does a killer job. I actually think he does better than Constantine. I think so, yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And he's going to be doing the voiceover for this, too. So he's actually back for this character.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that's pretty cool.
Man, so I'd like to see somebody that's not on TV or on the very public right now. Anybody that's kind of old, like the Swamp Thing. How many times have you seen the Swamp Thing come up? Green Arrow. I mean, any old...
Right.
Anybody old that we're not seeing too much now, kind of bring them into light.
It would be nice to have Green Arrow back. Yeah, with the cancellation or the finish, basically, of Arrow, it'd be cool to have him back. I'm going to say Damian Wayne, which is Batman's son. He's such a little badass. He's he's a Robin, and a future Batman. We know from seeing in the future that he becomes Batman eventually. He's born out of the League of Assassins. I mean, he's like awesome all over the place, and he has a pet cow, and he's just cool. And so I would love for him to be part of Justice League Dark. That'd be really cool. But yeah, he's pretty amazing. So moving on to the next thing, we have this new series called Overlook. This will be a spin-off of Stephen King's classic, The Shining. It'll have some of the same characters from The Shining. I'm imagining they're all going to be recast. And it sounds like it will take place at Overlook Lodge, which is in the Colorado Rockies Mountain. Squeaks, I know you're a big horror fan. Are you looking forward to this series at all?
I super am. I wish they would revamp The Shining actually myself.
Yeah.
I would love to see it again, but I think this is going to be even better that we can still go back to the world, but not actually hear the same stories, so get to see something new. So I'm super excited about this one. As long as you get me back into that universe, that'd be awesome.
I'm not too familiar with the series, so I'm going to take a look at it. I think Stephen King is going to be a good watch, any of his, but it's something I'm going to have to dig into a little more.
So you've never watched The Shining?
No.
With Jack Nicholson? Oh man, I'm excited for you to check that out for the first time. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I think it's, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, of course, is a classic, but The Shining was what made him, I think, personally. That was so big. Last up, Perry Mason is back. So this is going to be a classic noir detective series, but it has kind of this modern pacing where we have a lot of these like long lingering shots. That's something that didn't exist back in the day. This is coming back June 21st. Are you guys excited to see a series that's basically a classic detective noir movie? What do you think, Cheddar?
So I'm excited to see it. I watched the trailer. I thought it was pretty pumped to kind of check it out. One thing I thought was interesting, and you guys put some input on it. What do you think about Robert Downey Jr. being the producer?
I'm excited for that. I'm excited for him to step out of that role of just actor. I can't wait to see what he does.
I think that's going to be one driving force for me watching it, just for him to step out as an actor and see what he can do as a producer.
I think that's going to be pretty neat. I want to see something that's like taking me back to like this little gangster era. And but the other side of things, instead of seeing like from the mob side, it'd be pretty neat to see it from the detective side.
Yeah, because this was the genre that was like almost overused back in the day, and we have a little glimpse of it. I think with Jessica Jones, kind of had that detective noir feel, just modernized, and I love that part where she's trying to go around and solve the cases and stuff. So I'm excited to see that come back. That'll be pretty cool. Do you guys think HBO Max is worth subbing to, or are you guys going to pass up this new subscription service?
Well, I'm still new to HBO Max, so what is it really offering me that I can't get with HBO now? Is this going to have certain
original
series?
Content?
Of course,
it'll have original content, and it sounds like I would predict that DC Universe will eventually be folded into it.
Why? How do you see that connection?
Because DC and WB have a publishing agreement, and it would make and WB owns HBO.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah. It would be much easier to just have them under one house.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay. Dang, that's going to be a badass subscription then. Shit.
It will, yeah. If you could watch Eastbound and Down and then Batman, that's just like perfect.
Damn. I would probably pay for that, yeah.
Yeah, until that happens, I think I'm going to stay out of it. Until we get more coming out of it and more bang for my buck, I think I'm going to kind of pass.
Yeah. I wish they would actually just close down HBO Go and HBO Now. I hate that there's two of those, first of all.
Right?
And then it's so silly that HBO Now, if you don't have whatever. I just think close both those down and make HBO Max your new main thing. And just put all your money behind that. It can be big. They have a lot of they have AT&T that just bought, the parent company. So they have a lot of money behind them. Why not,
It's like having Netflix. You're paying an additional fee for Netflix originals.
Yeah. Yeah, but instead of just being Netflix, it's like Netflix, but you have a wider... Well, no, because the idea of them owning DC is huge, and then everything that WB's ever made will be on there. So it can be kind of big. It might actually be like third or fourth biggest once everything's said and done. You'll have to see how much DC content they make. Next, we have a Grand Theft Auto that's underway. It comes from a report from Jason Schreier of Kotaku. By the way, Jason Schreier, he's a phenomenal reporter. We always are reading his articles. He does these really deep dives on the industry side of video games. And he's actually the one that really led this article about the crunch culture at Rockstar Games. If you guys weren't aware, during the development of Red Dead Redemption 2, the developers were putting in 12-hour, 13, 14-hour days, working way over overtime and during the weekends, trying to get this game done in time so that they could hit certain quarterly benchmarks. Ended up creating a very intense work environment, I guess is the best way to put it, and ended up leading to a lot of walkouts and a lot of people having medical issues with just like stress and strain. So that's a problem that actually spreads throughout the whole gaming industry. And then there's been this focus on crunch culture after that. But Rockstar or Red Dead Redemption 2 was really kind of the poster child for that. So ever since then, Rockstar's really been working on decreasing crunch culture. And in this report, Rockstar discusses their plans for the next Grand Theft Auto. The game will launch in segments, a smaller base game with follow-up DLCs that expand the world. So this is kind of a modern way of doing things. You guys, if you buy, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, there's all kinds of little expansions that come with it, little DLCs. With the addition of content coming out later, this makes it to where they can focus on a small piece at a time, meaning that people can actually have a normal work week. Now, the big thing for me as a consumer is, are these DLCs going to be free or are they going to cost something? Because then you guys are also having to get more money out of less content out of me. So it's kind of that toss up. So Squeaks, what do you think about crunch culture going forward?
Well, think about it for the families. I think I think it's awesome for them. If you're going to keep these employees happy, then that's what's going to make them keep going. If you're going to
Yeah,
grind them every single day at work, then obviously the attitude that you're going to get from them is not going to be very productive when they're at work. Um,
that's a good point.
so yeah, so will the game take longer? Yeah, but I mean, if I'm thinking about it as a consumer, how many times does everyone delay a game anyway? So
Yeah,
if you
that's
just take
true.
the time and work on it, make the employees happy so their productivity levels are higher when they're at work, then I think we'll get a product like we deserve.
So Anthony, what do you think about this smaller base game and follow-up DLCs? Would you rather that or the game just take longer to make?
I think the DLC depends on what they're bringing. I think the DLCs is just. I think it depends on what they're bringing to the table. Sometimes you're
Hmm.
spending more money and you're just paying a little bit each more, and you're not getting too much. So I think it depends on what they're bringing to the table. Is it worth to download the DLC, or am I just wasting my money for a little bit more content when I would rather just wait longer and get a lot more from it?
That's a big point there because there's certain games out there that are bringing out a lot more additional content that doesn't cost anymore, and we are so much more grateful for it. And so much to the point where I actually go out and buy their cosmetics just to say thank you. My example, of course, is Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves comes out with additional content all the time. We do not pay any more for it, and yet because they're doing that, I go out and buy a monkey and a cat once that cat gets released this month. So, um, that I think is like the perfect version of it. I just don't know. Like I think companies like EA might be a little too greedy for that. Squeaks, do you think that's even an option, or if that's basically too nice for the too many of these companies?
No, no, dang it. So my feeling is, how big is the initial game we're gonna get? Um, and is it gonna be worth the $60 or whatever they're gonna price it at? So sometimes we're
Right.
gonna get, okay, here's a little portion of the game. Um, it's gonna be $60, and then DLC is $20 here and there. And it's like, what is going on? You're telling me this game's not even finished. So why am I even paying this price? Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
for cosmetics and stuff like that. That's what you're saying.
Well, no, I'm saying, do you see a Sea of Thieves type business model being able to survive in this industry where we have these free DLCs coming up, and then we're just super grateful, so we'll might buy the cosmetics to help them out, or do you think that's just too gracious for a company like EA?
I think it's for EA extremely gracious. Uh,
Yeah,
but I just don't know how long Sea of Thieves, with this type of motto they have, is gonna last. How much money do they make? I guess we need to know how much money they make off these cosmetics. Um,
that's true.
and is it going to kind of match how much they or how many copies of the game they sold in the beginning?
Well, do you think you can keep your players longer? Right? Can you keep somebody longer with continuing to bring out DLCs and then bringing more people on, or are you going to burn them out by constantly charging them for a DLC?
You know, that's a good point because there's no doubt I'm playing more Sea of Thieves now because the DLCs are out for free than if they weren't out for free. Because then I'd be like, well, I'll just wait until I have nothing else to play instead
Easy,
of like,
yeah.
well, let me go finish this thing up. What do
But
you think,
then
Squeaks?
would you feel that would it revamp you to play Sea of Thieves if you knew there were going to be a second one, or would you buy it or Sea of Thieves too because you know you love the first one? So it's like,
Well, if
how
it's
much
a
money do you
full
make off
additional
that?
game, I'm buying the full additional game if that
Yeah.
comes out. There's no doubt.
So I'm just
Um,
curious if it would spark more people to play number two because they used to play number one that are currently not playing number one, and how much money would they make off of that?
yeah, yeah. it's a whole new world we're coming up on. And another thing that we've talked about this like a long time ago, I think like episode 20, is the fact that the price of games has not moved up, and yet the cost of living has. So if you look at inflation, we're actually spending less for video games now than we ever have. $60 nowadays. So we're spending probably like $40 to $35 on a video game that's actually was worth $60, not long ago. And yet the development into these games is way more than it ever has. So as a consumer, we have the benefit right now. We have the advantage. It's such a tricky little thing, because if they were to tell me that every video game that comes out is going to cost me $100, I'd be in the streets fighting them. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, but it's not fair that I would be. But that's just my initial reaction. So damn. We're there.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as soon as you said $500 game. I was like, man, if they raise the prices just even $20, an $80 game, it's like, oh my god. I mean, $60 I don't even want to spend on some of these games, but
yeah,
man, I can't.
But if you look at like the cost of development, that's how much we should be spending. Because in the 90s, crazy, when games are not like, think of like the Xbox 360 when those games are coming out at $60. That's in 2004. So $60 then is about $80 now, I would assume. You know what I'm saying?
But I think the gaming industry has increased where you have more players now than ever.
That's true.
So it's kind of leveling off too.
And I think they're finding out that there's a steadier stream of cash flow with in-app purchases. You could just look at the mobile market for that. Than there are from these monster big purchases where you have to like really depend on a game hitting or missing, and then the whole company's hinging on one game.
Yeah, because think about it. Like when they say Red Dead Redemption sold 1 million, I think it was some crazy stuff. Let's say 1 million copies in 1 week. It's like, holy shit, do the math on that. Maybe it did make up for all that labor and whatnot.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to, we're going to talk about Crysis is being remastered, and it's coming this summer. Have either of you guys played Crysis before?
I played about 20 minutes of it once when it originally came out. So I can't say much about Crysis.
Cheddar, have you ever played it or no?
Same thing. I mean, the game's over 10 years old?
Yeah, it came out in 07, I think it was, yeah.
What I've heard is still popular today. It's just having troubles running, and it's really being asked for a remake, but I haven't played it too much, no.
Yeah, so when you guys stopped playing, was it because your system couldn't handle it, or just the game was not that interesting?
I just was moving on to something else. Yeah.
So Crysis was a first-person shooter that follows a military squad, and they with like this nanotech suit that gives them like extra abilities, the ability to fight stronger or whatever, and invisibility. It was developed in 07 by Crytek using this Crytek engine that was pretty insane. So this game had such stunning graphics and so many physics going on at one time that it was early light shading. You could literally shoot every branch on a tree and it all come apart. You can push anything around, you can do whatever. Even the ground was 3D textured, and if you had the sun hit the ground, not only would you have like this shading happening from that, but if there's a bump in the ground, that thing would also cast a shade. Stuff that even today is not being used in video games. So it was a monster of a game at the time. So much so that if you had a high-end computer, you were typically running into issues still because it didn't feel very optimized. Just one of those revolutionary kind of games. It's finally being remastered it's on a new Crytek engine, a brand new one. It's getting optimized, and it's getting an HD pack. So for many players, this will actually be their first time playing through it. And even the console releases, so if you're like, oh yeah, but I played this on the console release, they had to take out levels in the game because they were too intense. There's one in particular where you're flying around in helicopters and shooting. That level is not out there for console players. It was only out for PC players. And you had to have the best graphics card and stuff like that to play it at all. So all that's going to be available. So a lot of these people are going to see this game for the first time. It's still played today. It's from 07, and it looks like a pretty like mid-tier game that would come out today. Like an Arma level game that would come out today. That shows you how good this game was. So it's pretty awesome. And you guys have played just a little bit of it. I haven't played it yet. And I'm just so interested in this game being remade. And I'm wondering, is there any other game out there that deserves this kind of like, it was limited by its current technology and needs to be remastered, that you want to see remastered now? Cheddar, let's start with you. Is there any game out there you'd want to bring back?
I think not because it was limited from its current day, but I mean, some games that need to be remastered that I would play again. I think the Time Crisis or the Dino Crisis.
Classic. Yeah.
Always going into those, and this is going back to, I think, 64 Army Men.
Oh, yeah.
And as online content, like your PUBG. I think that'd be pretty cool.
That is such a good idea. I haven't thought about that game probably since I've rented it at Blockbuster. Like that's a classic. That's a good one.
The Dino Crisis pick, of course. What about maybe like bringing Medal of Honor back? Since we only have really Call of Duties and Battlefields
Yeah.
are okay here and there. Maybe a Simpsons hit and run. You know, can you get some run?
Simpsons Hit and Run's a very good choice because that was extremely limited by its technology. If you look at the map, it was all by perspective to make the world look bigger, but it really wasn't that big. So actually giving that a full GTA, recreating all of Springfield, that would be amazing.
Yeah, but yeah, that'd be my pick. I would like to see another Simpsons come back to this video game life.
That's a good choice. For me, I have two picks. I'm going with Kirby Adventures. It was on the original NES. This game had the ability to steal powers and stuff like that. It was a great platformer. And if you look at the platformers today, they're monstrous games. They have so many levels. And that one only had like 4 worlds with like maybe 6 levels in each one. But they were so well done. It was very fast paced. So I would like to see Kirby given like the current side scroller technology, platformer kind of thing we have going on here, like an Ori. That's what I'm kind of trying to say. And then Oblivion, which I think is the best Elder Scrolls. And I know people are like, but wait, there's Skyrim. I think Oblivion's the best. It is currently being upgraded by a company, a little indie company. But I'd like to see Oblivion being taken care of by Bethesda themselves and totally getting a remaster. I even think that it can handle online. And it had some of the best voice acting it had Patrick Stewart as the old king. And it had Ned Stark himself as like the king you're helping ascend the throne. So you had some amazing voice acting in this game that could be saved. It was actually one of the first RPGs that got me into that category. So I'm a big fan of that. Next up, we have some amazing news from amazing developers. The game industry is currently uniting to help the World Health Organization. Game developers around the world have decided that, the message that World Health Organization is putting out there about cleaning your hands, social distancing, coughing into your, elbow, stuff like that, that needs to be spread. So what they're doing is they're creating these special events, rewards, different things like that to keep people at home, and they're using the hashtag play apart together. So you'll see that a lot on Twitter and Instagram to kind of push all their titles. So for example, obviously a game that we all like is Activision Blizzard. They have the World of Warcraft. They're giving all their players double experience, and they just extended that out to pre-patch. So that's probably November, December territory. That's to get everybody to stay home, level with your friends. All the games that are getting this kind of play apart together treatment are multiplayer games. PUBG Mobile is starting their Chicken Dinner from Home event. This is going to be a weekend event that happens like every other weekend or something like that. That's going to have celebrities and pro players working together to stream, and they're going to be also hosting community tournaments. And these like pro players and celebrities are streaming together, and they're raising money for charity, which is pretty cool. Other companies that are getting in on this is Riot, Unity, Twitch, Razer, Oculus, Logitech, a lot of these big dogs. There's still way more to go though. Since March 28th, when this was first announced, and it was kind of an underwhelming announcement, there was only a handful of companies involved. Now there are 57 developers and game-related companies. So looking at this event, is there any multiplayer games out there that you would suggest people play so that they can hang out together online?
Promoting the multiplayer games or what they're doing now is great. Not only keeping people safe, but keeping them entertained at home. One game, so I'm kind of lazy. Sometimes it's too much work for me to go turn on my computer or turn on my PS4 or Xbox, whatever it is. I like to just sit on my couch. Yeah. So I've been playing Mobile Legends because I'm pretty damn lazy. So it's kind of like your League of Legends, but for your phone.
Yeah. And does it have a lot of like interconnectivity where you're able to like, hey, let's get together and play?
Yeah, it's pretty much League of Legends, but on your phone. I mean, of course, different characters, different kind of setup, but it's the same exact thing. Connect with different players, teams of 5, and the same kind of content.
Does it have leaderboards and stuff like that, so you can kind of brag against your friends, because that's important to us?
Absolutely. I mean, especially when Squeaks is always on the bottom, it's never changes.
Oh my god.
You know what? That reminds me a lot of our golf matches last night. Squeaks, what do you think about multiplayer games that you can play with your friends?
Well, I was going to talk about this golf game, but fuck that game now. Golf with friends. No, I think it's neat. I think there's a couple that I'm thinking of that would be really relaxed if you don't want to go hardcore. But some of the ones like relaxed, it'd be cool just to sit like Anthony's talking about sitting on the couch or whatever playing is like Hearthstone. That'd be neat to just play against someone there.
Yeah.
If you want to play something a little bit more than that or more complex than that, Minecraft. I know you just got me into Minecraft, so that'd be kind of neat to adventure a couple hours and get lost and realize that it's already dinner time when you just woke up.
Yeah.
Rocket League would be awesome to get a group of guys to go, a group of friends to play with others.
Yeah.
I think what I really liked it too. I don't know if this is. I can't remember if this is online, or I know this is couch co-op. But Overcooked. I don't know if you've all ever played that, but it's a really fun game where you have to pretty much be chefs together, and you have to do different
Hmm.
jobs to like feed whatever the boss or whatever.
I'm familiar with that. Like one person's chopping the vegetables and
Yeah,
another person's, yeah,
yeah,
that's a good one.
yeah.
Yeah, for me, your normal subjects are out there. You got the World of Warcraft and Minecraft and all that stuff like that. But yeah, that golf with friends or golf with your friends, I think it's called, is a really fun one, and it was like $10. It's often on sale on Steam. But you're playing golf on crazy maps. You can actually develop your own maps and then have friends try that out. That was a lot of fun, and relatively cheap. There's another one that's called Darwin Project. That's a free battle royale game. Think of like what would you call it? Like a Fortnite game.
Yeah.
But instead of leveling up your gear and your weapons, you're set with an axe and a bow. That's the only two weapons you get. But you actually level up your abilities. So you can be like, oh, I really like my ability to go invisible. Then you got to lean into that and stuff like that. So it makes it fun. And I've actually been streaming that, and we have drops of it enabled for our streams. If you guys want to watch us play that, you'll get the drops, which is a cool axe. But that's a fun one, and it's free. So me, why not? But yeah, there's a few out there that are pretty cool. Here's a quote from Activision boss Bobby Kotick, which normally we're cursing his name because he's the Activision side of everything. But here he is. It's never been more critical to ensure players stay safely connected to one another. Games are the perfect platform because they connect people through the lens of joy, purpose, and meaning. We are proud to participate in such a worthwhile and necessary initiative. So that says it right there. The idea that you have a purpose together, you have something to kind of like get excited for and hang out and share stories. Again, I have to go back to World of Warcraft on this. We have a friend that's probably getting WoW pretty soon, and I look forward to leveling for the first time with him. Like him seeing that big broad world and then me sharing this world with him. That's such a good way to hang out when right now everybody's stuck inside. So it's pretty cool. All right, guys, we're moving on to our brand new segment that you're going to be hearing a lot more from us, Esports Desk. Squeaks, I'm going to first off start with you. You've been watching Overwatch lately. How's that going?
I have super entertaining, but then a lot of upsets too. So that's what's really enjoyable about watching this Overwatch season right now. There's been some sweeps, some clean sweeps that I wasn't expecting, some 3-0s, and then there's been some really close ones, and to where a team would be winning 2-0. Next thing you know, they lost 3-2. So it's super entertaining. I love seeing these different teams. Just the Overwatch League has just so grown so much, and it's pretty
very
awesome.
well
To
done,
where
too.
at certain times, yeah, like there's a China. You got to catch games on China in China, and it's like, oh shit, it's 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And that's just reminds me of back in like World Cup days. I just love how this is growing, and I love the setup. That Blizzard or whoever has organized this it's really well done.
Yeah. It's done by Blizzard, but this is the first time where YouTube's got such a big part of it because they have a new partnership with Google. So we're starting to see what that looks like, and I'm liking it so far. I think they've done a nice job with the UIs. I think the commentating's done well. It's a lot of the same commentators we had on Twitch, but I think it's done quite well. How do you feel about that? How do you think YouTube's doing with holding that event?
I mean, it's YouTube. It's fine. The only thing, I don't know if this is more of a Blizzard thing. It's probably more of a Blizzard thing than a YouTube thing. Is that the commentators do a great job explaining the match and what's going on, but sometimes we get to that first person view of someone else and we didn't really see what happened, even though we're supposed to be in the action. They'll commentate something that kind of happened off to the side. I'm like, oh shit, I wish I would have saw that. So it would have been nice to kind of get more of an overview of the players instead of always just first person. But I don't know if that's a YouTube thing or a Blizzard thing. It's probably a Blizzard thing.
It might be a Blizzard thing because people are at home. I think at the events they have that extra console to be able to watch from afar.
Yeah. Other than that, YouTube's just being YouTube. I mean, they're doing a fine job. It's just like if we were watching at BlizzCon, I really don't have any complaints with YouTube.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Cheddar, I'll shoot over to you. Have you been watching any esports lately? Have you had a chance?
Off and on, I have seen a few of those things on the Overwatch, which I agree, pretty entertaining. I think just watching I'm not very good at Overwatch, so watching what they do, I'm like, oh man, like the skill they have or the hours they put into this game. But that's pretty much all I've seen here and there is a little bit of Overwatch.
Yeah, Overwatch is a lot of fun. I can't wait for someday for you to go to BlizzCon with us and see it like in the arena. It's so crazy. But
Me
yeah.
too.
Right now we have a lot of things going on. We have Dota's got some championships going on, season ending championships. League of Legends got season 1 championship finishing up. Currently, right now we have Cloud9 playing FlyQuest eSports, which Cloud9 of course is one of the legendaries, and they're ahead of the game right now. I've been watching FIFA. I'm not necessarily a big fan of the FIFA game, but I am a fan of soccer, and I just want some sports to be on, so it's perfect. And so it's been a lot of fun. They're killing it right now. They have the Stay Home and Play Cup, which is a really cool kind of, like we were talking about before, video game companies getting out there and helping out. And we're down to our final 6, which they're so talented. There's no way I can touch these guys. They're so good. And then I've been watching a lot of Counter-Strike. They currently have their season 1 finales for the US going on right now. The last 2 going right now are Mad Lions, which is my favorite team, and then we have MIBR going. And Mad Lions, they're falling behind, but they're a really good team. And watching these guys on Counter-Strike, their predictability and their ability to set up these plays, again, it's one of those things where I'm just like, man, I wish I could play like this. I just got to play more. I get flashes of that when I play Overwatch, where I'm like, oh, that was clean. Mm-hmm. But when you guys watch these guys and they're setting up, like, here, I'm going to put, like, I was watching one last night where he puts down the smoke, right, and then he puts a bomb in it, and then he walks out, waits for people to kind of like get ready to fight into that smoke, like waiting for him to appear, and he kills 2 guys on the top, and then comes back down and gets the guy that was engaging in the smoke. I mean, it was just crazy. So a lot of these moments, and then you have some heroes really popping out too that are really doing a good job. Squeaks, do you have any other esports that you wanted to discuss that you've been watching lately?
Well, I mean, this is kind of old, but I just finished the Mortal Kombat tournament, and I'm sure you heard his name, but Sonic Fox took it again. After he was in the losing bracket, he came back to beat in the championship to beat who knocked him to the losing bracket. And what blows my mind is, oh my god, the trophy that they gave out is the big ass Shao Kahn hammer. Like, this thing is huge.
Yeah.
So a lot of me, I'll go into detail. I will be going into detail a lot with Overwatch, and then any of those fighting tournaments, I'm really looking forward to. I like Street Fighter. I like Mortal Kombat. Super Smash Bros. Will be fun.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. I want to move into a couple of the big stories that we have here. So PUBG is now changing its plans for esports. In the wake of COVID-19, they originally had these 3 big events planned, and they're really killing it with the esports game, which is great. But they had these big 3, and now they moved on to this online one that they're calling PUBG Continental Series, the PCS. So that's how you're going to call it there. It'll be held May, June, and August with a prize pool of $2.4 million for the 4 regions. So there's going to be North America, Europe, Asia, and that one includes China, Korea, Japan, and China Taipei. And then there's Asia Pacific that has Southeast Asia, New Zealand, and Australia. And so each one of them is going to be dividing the $2.4 million. The first tournament's going to be held, it's going to be called the PUBG Continental Series Charity Showdown, and that's going to be in May. Each region is going to have a prize pool of $100,000, with additional $100,000 going to the charity of the winner's choice. I love that. That's such a cool way. And then in June and August, we have the Pick'em Challenge, where fans at home can pick who they think are going to win and kind of do brackets like you do with your March Madness for chances to win exclusives, in-game stuff like, cosmetics and whatnot. So that's a cool way to kind of get the fans involved. Those teams, there's 21 teams that already got past the qualifiers for the 3 original events. They're all going to get a $20,000 compensation to kind of say like, hey, sorry that this got canceled. That's a cool move, because I bet there's something in the clauses in the contract saying like, look, if it's for an act of God, which is usually the kind of the something, terrible happens, we're going to cancel the event. So this is totally just them being cool about it. I really like that they're doing that. That's neat. A special note, we are going to be covering the May event on Twitch. We're going to host it and be commentating on it. So if you guys want to watch that event and hear our beautiful voices in the background, we'll see you guys there. I'm excited for this. What do you guys think about that charity event? I really like that the best. Do you think that's a cool way to kind of give back and kind of root for a team a little harder when you know, like, oh, that's also going to be going for my favorite charity? Squeaks, what do you think about that?
I think that's awesome to give the competitors themselves the ability to pick the charity that they want. I don't know if I was necessarily root for someone more than the other because of the charity, but I think it's nice it helps us as viewers to see what else is out there for charities instead of seeing the ones we always just hear about on TV or the radio. So it's kind of neat to branch out on different types of charities that we might be able to look into.
Yeah. What do you think, Cheddar? What are your thoughts on this?
I agree. It kind of reminds me of a lot of these famous sports players when they go on different TV shows, and then they they're on the TV show to give back to a certain charity, and they pick that charity. And I think it's kind of what esports is trying to bring to the table, and the same thing they're doing in other games or other kind of athletic sports right now.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. It's a good way to kind of also, it has this ability of not only doing good, but also bringing more attention to esports in general, which is totally the future of sports. And so that's a really good way to handle it. That's a smart move. Next up, we have the first Valorant Collegiate Esports event coming up. So this is a small event, but it's actually considered the very first event for them. Valorant is on fire, and that is a lot of that is due to the fact that they're handing out beta keys if you watch streamers. So you actually have to watch people play the game before you have a chance of getting one of these keys to play the game yourself. It's irritating if you're a person like myself who has yet to get the key and Riot is not responding to your emails very well. But for our friends like Sammy over there who's enjoying the game, it's good to hear from them. But this event's going to be held on April 25th, and it's going to be held by Andbox. Andbox already handles 2 different teams. They take care of Overwatch's New York Excelsior, which Squeaks and I are both familiar with them, and Call of Duty's New York Subliners. And they're kind of a newer team, I believe. So this tournament will have 64 teams in it with a prize pool of $2,000, and then you guys are able to sign up for it right now. So they end on the 20th. I'm going to try to get this out by the 20th, so you guys have a chance to sign up for that if you guys think you have what it takes. But that's pretty cool. And you're open as long as you're a college student. So basically anybody who has somebody in college can go for this. How do you guys think Valorant will do as an esport? Cheddar, what do you think about Valorant as an esport?
As an esport, I think this is a good way to actually kind of bring the game to light. I think it's being a new game, and obviously having a big fan base already with the previous games they're having. I think bringing this in as an esport, and then having individuals watch the game, kind of like a preview of what's going to come and what they have the ability to play. So I think bringing it out is going to be great. I will not be playing it for the beta because I know I'm not going to be any good.
Yeah, well, I know I won't be good either, but I'm just so anxious to try it out. Squeaks, what are your thoughts on Valorant as an esport?
I think it's going to do really well. I do like how they already announced it to be an esport this early, and it's going to bring a lot of attention to it for that reason. A lot of people we see CSGO still continue to be dominant in esports, and a lot of people compare this game to CSGO. So if we're going to get a newer 2020 version of CSGO, and it's going to be just slightly different, a little bit of powers here and there, I think a lot of people might gravitate more to that. We might see some CSGO players switch over. So you never know.
I can see that. Yeah, there's definitely Riot themselves, they're very, very good at the esports game, and they've already been approaching over 100 different esports teams that play other games, trying to recruit them over and have them build a team for them. So wow. Riot's definitely leaning into the esports, which is pretty fantastic. Okay, guys, so that's our esports segment there. Just kind of a future heads up on this. I know that a lot of people may not be fans of esports. What we're trying to do is practice this esports part and eventually create its own show. So it will eventually have 2 episodes coming out a week. The second one being an esports segment that's 30-minute episode or whatever. So it's just more for you. So if you're an esports fan, hang out with us. We're going to be bringing you more esports. If you're not an esports fan, still hang out with us because we're still going to bring you everything you love. So I'm glad you're hanging out for that. Next up, we have our good news of the week. All right, everybody, we're heading into our good news. Jonathan's not with us, but we have Squeaks and Cheddar hanging out still. So let's first talk about the 6-month suspension on all U.S. federal student loans. So if you have a student loan, or even if you're delinquent on a student loan, you don't have to worry about paying for it for the next 6 months to kind of help out with those bills. That was really cool. So even if you've already paid this month, so in March, if you've already paid last month, if you already paid some of your bill, they'll actually be sending you money back to help out with those bills at home. This is a full waiver. It even waives off the, what is that where you have like a lien on your paychecks, They're taking that off too. So there's 830,000 borrowers that are going to get relief through this. And 85% of all student loans are actually federal student loans. So there's so many people that are going to have this little break, this 6-month break to really bounce back. Because even if say tomorrow we're all back out and hanging out in parks, it's still going to take a long time for the economy to fire back up. So it's really cool that federal government's just like, hey guys, take a break for a bit. We'll see you guys in 6 months. What do you thoughts on this, Cheddar? Or I'm sorry, Squeaks.
I think that's awesome for especially someone that's working a part-time job trying to pay off a loan. It gives them a break to kind of bounce back and prepare themselves for when the loan due. start taking that money out. So that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm glad to hear that. All right, so what's our next story?
All right, so Sam's Club's offering hero shopping hours to healthcare workers, regardless if they have a membership or not.
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
that's pretty neat. Just thinking of like having a Costco membership, and then I
Yeah,
mean, obviously, I mean, Costco, Sam's Club, whatever, same business. But it's like, oh crap, that's pretty. That's one. It's good for the company because they're probably gonna get a shit ton of business. One.
yeah.
But currently, the company employees are given an exclusive 2-hour block of shopping time between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings. So if you are a member, be careful between those hours because it might be packed.
Well, it's exclusive, so if you're a regular member and you're not a healthcare worker, you're not welcomed in.
Oh, so they're kicking them off.
Yeah, that way, the reason they're doing this is so that the healthcare workers have a moment to breathe
I
and be able to
understand.
shop without the rush of like, oh god, it's crowded in here kind of thing.
Oh, that's crazy. That's super awesome that they even give them that
Yeah,
now. Um,
yeah.
as well as the company says that we're inspired to launch an initiative after several individual branch managers took it upon themselves to invite local hospital workers to shop with the store associates. So
Yeah,
that's
so
really neat. As
I love
that,
that.
yeah, that the employees are in a way, besides the company, giving back to these healthcare workers
Yeah.
or assisting with them
Yeah.
since they assist with so many sick.
Yeah. And the part that I really like about this is the fact that it doesn't matter if you have a membership or not. So it actually probably helps Sam Clubs a little bit in the fact that like people are going to go there that don't have memberships because they didn't think they needed one.
For
Then
sure.
like, oh, I love Sam's Club. The tryouts are really good. And then they stick around for Sam's Club. That's pretty
For
cool. I
sure.
like that. Yeah. Anthony, what's our next story, man?
All right, so we got just moving around the world a little bit. Notre Dame Cathedral bell rang out for healthcare workers on the 1 year anniversary of its fire.
Oh
So
man, I
on
forgot about that
April
fire.
15th, marked
Yeah.
1 year of the anniversary of the fire. It came within 30 minutes of destroying the beloved Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. I think it's kind of crazy how the bell's ringing a year later, and
Yeah.
especially what we got going on right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty amazing because so much of it was destroyed, but the little bell spot is okay. And they actually have to like use hazmat suits to even get to that part. But man, it's so inspirational.
So now, as a means of honoring its survival and encouraging locals to remain unified in the face of the novel coronavirus, the cathedral rang the bell across Paris for the second time since the fire. I mean, I think it's just another sign of unity and showing in my opinion, showing how everybody's together. So on April 15th at 8 p.m., when city dwellers typically take to their windows to applaud the healthcare workers on the front lines of the pandemic, 3 of them in hazmat suits protecting themselves from toxic lead particles releasing by the fire and spent 5 minutes ringing the iconic bell. So as reporters captured the iconic event on camera, hundreds of French citizens could hearing the cheering and clapping throughout the streets. I mean, I think it's amazing to see how everybody comes together right
Yeah.
now, and especially with something so little by ringing a bell can do so much.
Yeah, and that's a tradition that's actually starting up around the world. You know, at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, whatever. Hey, let's everybody honk the horns and clap from your windows and stuff like that to give a shout out to the healthcare workers. It's so cool. And then the bell on top of it, showing that even the Notre Dame Cathedral still stands. Oh man, it's beautiful. It's really cool. All right, I'm talking about our next one, and it's about this little restaurant that's been suffering down in Tampa called the Dats Restaurant Group, and it's been around for years. Well, they were struggling, and they had 400 employees. They had to bring it down to 27 employees just to keep the doors open. They decided we have this really nice bottle of whiskey. Let's go ahead, our bourbon called Old Rip Van Winkle Bourbon, which I love the name. It's great. Uh, let's sell this thing. The guy looked online. He said, okay, I can get 20,000 for this thing. So he put it up in there and he had like a little 15% discount. And then people kept trying to like, oh, hey, how about 10,000? He's like, no, I need to keep these doors open. So there's this local veteran that says, hey, leave it. I'm coming by. I'm going to drop off a check. I'm picking that up. Okay, that's cool. Guy comes by, drops off a check for 40,000 instead of the 20,000. And he's a veteran that is actually a regular at the restaurant. They call him back like, hey man, there's a mistake. You put 40 instead of 20. And he's like, no, I want you to keep those doors open. So it's just one of those moments where like those locals that came in, I used to work at a McDonald's and we would have the locals come in every Saturday morning, a group of like 6 older men and women that would come in and I'd pour them coffee. And it's this bond. It's just like, that's really cool. So to think of a local came back in to keep those doors open, it's just so wonderful. Shows how really cool everybody is out there. What do you guys think about that?
Super generous, and it's just one of those stories that it's awesome to hear at a time like this that there are people out there that are helping one another, and there are all these happy stories. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. All right, Squeaks. What's our next
All
one?
right. So another company is making plastic face masks for medical workers, and that company is Lego. Who would have thought, right? So, according to an Instagram post that was published by Lego earlier this week, the company's Billund-based factory in Denmark has reworked some of their machinery to make more than 13,000 plastic masks per day. The masks will reportedly be distributed to hospitals and medical facilities across the country. Also, Lego has announced this week that they would be donating 500,000 brick sets to children in need during the novel coronavirus outbreaks. That's awesome.
I love that.
Gosh,
It's just so cool.
I wish I could get a set, but I think it's awesome. Besides Lego and a face mask too. I want to see what these look like. But like it's awesome to see these other all these companies come together for this one cause, because it really does feel like, oh, instead of this money hungry company, or I'm not speaking of Lego, but just anyone period, that they really do care and they're trying their best to help everyone out. We had New Balance do it. Walmart's making masks. Gap was involved with masks being distributed. There's famous artists, clothing artists that are doing this as well. So it's awesome to see Lego jumping on this as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. The 50,000 bricks too. I mean, that's just so cool.
Oh man,
500,000.
And you just think of like if a kid's in the hospital or whatever the case may be, you get these bricks, like it's all it is just Legos. It's not a big deal, but to them it's just the best thing in the world that they got something like that.
Yeah, and it's something that can be played more and more. You know, it's just kind of endless fun that you can just rebuild and stuff like that and let your imagination go wild, which is what they all need right now.
Yeah.
I actually have heard a little bit of a tidbit or a rumor. The plastic they're using to make these masks is, if you think of like, I'm thinking of the old school astronaut from the movie there, that plastic visor he has is the plastic they're using for these masks. You know what I'm talking about? Like the astronaut's plastic visor?
Yeah. So
that's the plastic they're using for
would
these
it come
masks.
up and down? Oh yeah, it would, huh? Because they already have those.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like they're using that exact model, but it's that clear plastic they use for that version of the mask is what they're using to mold into these, and it's pretty neat. Yeah,
that's neat,
they're basic, but it's just cool to see that Lego's doing that.
For sure, yeah.
There is a Lego, by the way, there's a Lego animation short that's done in the Pixar styling of the history of the Lego factory, and I think it's like 30 minutes. I came across it on YouTube and just got let me click on this. I was enthralled for 30 minutes watching the history of Lego.
Oh, wow.
Done just like a Pixar movie. It actually reminded me a lot of Up. It was really, really cool.
Not to get off topic, but have you been watching Lego Masters?
I have not. It's on my list. I gotta watch it.
It just ended, and almost wanted to tear up at the end.
Are you aware that it was originally a British show?
I knew they had another show, and I think Australia has one as well.
Oh, is it? Okay.
But no, I wasn't aware of anything before this one came on.
Yeah. It's not the Will Arnett that's hosting it, but not Will Arnett. Is that right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I love him, dude. He does such a good job as Batman. He's so good at it.
Yeah, he's good. He's a family host on the show. He does a good job.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah. All right, Anthony, why don't you close us off with one more bit of good news?
All right, another coming back to people giving and just taking care of others and the healthcare workers. We got an English World War II veteran who's been walking laps around his back garden, has raised £2.6 million, which is 3.3 million here, for the National Healthcare Service in just 1 week. So 99-year-old Tom Moore says that NHS has been marvelous in helping him recover with his hip replacement, skin cancer on his head for over the last couple of years. As a way of saying thank you, the former civil engineer has been doing laps around 25 meters long, 82 feet around his garden for 100 lengths by his 100th birthday on April 30th. So Moore's daughter, Hannah Ingram Moore, who has set the fundraiser page for him, had to keep raising the amounts for the fundraiser from 1,000, 100,000, 250,000, 500,000, and to where he's at now. I mean, it's just crazy on how somebody can just walk their backyard, walk their garden, and raise all this money for him. So he's hoping.
I think he's streaming it too.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah, he's streaming it, so you guys could actually watch him do it. It's really neat. Really neat.
Wow. I mean, he's still shooting for his 100 laps, right?
He's past the 100 laps now. He's just going to keep on going. He's going to try to do another 100.
Oh my gosh. So, and I'm just curious to see how much money he raises and what he's giving back to the healthcare community.
It's really amazing. You could actually Google him, guys. That is Tom Moore, and you can donate yourself if you'd like to really help out with this. The National Healthcare Service is the healthcare service for the whole country, so you'd be helping all of UK doing that. That's just such a cool move. It's really neat. Okay, so these guys, all these articles come from goodnewsnetwork.org. So that's what we've been using for all of our good news segments at the end, closing our shows. So check them out, guys. They actually launched their own podcast. I think it was like maybe a couple weeks ago or something like that. So that's pretty cool. Check them out as well. And we want to thank them for all these good news bits. A little bit of good news coming from us. We will be doing a charity event coming next month. We're still hammering out the details. It'll be with other podcasts where we're uniting to help each other out, to help out a charity together. We'll be streaming a game we're all playing and working to raise money. So we'll let you guys know the details on that, but just kind of get hyped up for that. I know we have a few that already signed up, and it's going to be led by Wonder Soul, which is a fantastic podcast. You guys check them out as well, so that would be pretty neat. But that is it for us this week, guys. We want to thank you guys so much for joining us, and see you guys later. Bye. Thank you for joining us on the Geek Freaks podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Geek Freaks Pod. We're also on Facebook, Instagram. You can email us. We have our Patreon and a store. All those links are in the description. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll